Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Politics of Jesus podcast. We are honored to be joined by a leader whose ministry embodies both courage and conviction. Reverend Dr. William H. Lamar IV is the pastor of the historic Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church in Washington, D.C., a church whose legacy includes Frederick Douglass, Bishop Richard Allen, and the ongoing fight for Black freedom and dignity. In December 2020, when the Proud Boys attacked Metropolitan by tearing down its Black Lives Matter banner, Dr. Lamar and his congregation refused to be intimidated. They pursued justice, and in February 2025, they won a powerful victory in court. Today, we are excited to talk with Dr. Lamar about that journey and the persistence of white supremacist violence and what it means for faith communities to resist hatred, not only with prayer, but with power and prophetic witness. And to begin that conversation, I'm excited to be joined by my esteemed co-host, Dr. Obery Hendricks. Welcome, gentlemen.
Yes. Thank you, as always, Reverend LaKesha. Yeah, I'm really so glad to have a brother on our show who I respect, so much. Your courage, man, and your commitment, your activism. It can be said that you sort of, you're like an eloquent bridge between religious and political activist communities, and I think a model that I wish so many other ministers were aware of and would follow. And you bring all this together in your role as pastor of Metropolitan AME Church. So welcome, my brother.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hendricks. Thank you, Reverend LaKesha. Reverend LaKesha, you have given me a degree that I have not earned. I'm not a doctor. I'm in the presence of one. We'll get to that one day. I'm working on it now. But thank you for the kind invitation and introduction. I'm excited about our dialogue today.
Thank you, brother. Well, first, let me say this. It's not often that we see anyone, particularly Black person, who is the fourth in the family's lineage, right? And now, really, that is rare and impressive enough. But I understand you're also an heir to a distinguished bloodline.
Yes.
Which, to some degree, I would think informs your own vision and brilliance. Could you just take a moment to inform us, tell us about the first three William Lamars and that heritage?
It would be a joy to talk about those William Lamars and their wonderful partners in life that made possible life for me and so many of my family members. So William Lamar Sr. was married to Panola Norman Lamar, and they lived in Jones County, Georgia. He was a blacksmith and also a community leader. He died in the 40s in Norfolk, Virginia. They parented many sons and daughters, but the one in my direct line is William Lamar Jr., whom we call Big Daddy, who was married to Bessie Pitts Lamar. He was born in 1896, died in 1975. Bessie Pitts Lamar was born in 1900, died in 1987. He was a builder. He was also, as his father, blacksmith, a farmer. He left properties, but he also left a tremendous legacy. He was in World War I, and he was the president of a mutual aid society. I'm sure you all have spoken about those. He's the president of the Brothers and Sisters of Love Mutual Aid Society in Jones County. And they made sure that when people of African descent were cut out of what people call mainstream, but that means white, cut out of the white economy, that we had a way of ensuring ourselves, burying ourselves with dignity, caring for our widows and widowers. They were the parents of Henry O. Lamar Sr., and he married Sally Lamar. Henry Lamar is my father's father. He worked in a textile mill. He was a church leader, and I sat at his feet and learned so much. I think of him often. He was born in 1920. He died in 2010. And my grandmother, his wife, Sally Lamar, was born in 1920, died in 1989. And William Lamar III, my father, born in 1950. My mother, Eartha Lamar, born in 1950. I have the greatest parents ever to parent anyone in the world. They surrounded us with love. They encouraged my own curiosity. I was not an easy child to parent. I had a lot of questions, a lot of energy, and they found a way not to squelch that energy, but to feed it, and of course to give it some confines so that they could sleep, so that they could rest. But many parents, I think, would not know how to navigate a child with my level of precociousness, my level of police-like interrogation, but they made it all possible. So thank you for asking that question, because we do ground what we do in what the ancestors and elders have bequeathed to us. So I'm very thankful to have a moment to remember them and to offer gratitude to my parents who are alive and to those ancestors. Ashe.
Well, thank you, brother. Well, so let's get to the event with the Proud Boys transgression. You know, we know the contours of that, but how did you all experience that on the ground at the church and in, you know, the near aftermath?
Well, Reverend LaKesha, Dr. Obery, it was during COVID. And so we were not meeting for worship. Of course, the government of the District of Columbia made sure for our own safety that persons were not gathering. And so we would have worship via Facebook, but we would still go into the church to attend to things. So the Saturday afternoon in December, we went to do some things in the building. When we left the building, we noticed, at least security noticed, there was some kind of nefarious activity around. So security hung around because December of 2020, of course, that was after the election. The current president of the United States was whipping up his fascists and his brown shirts to visit with varying levels of political violence, distress amongst groups that they thought were not supportive. Our church, our people being among those groups. And so our security team hung around for a while, then they left. We went back home. That next morning, Sunday morning, went down to the basement to do Facebook Live worship. Before worship began, my phone started to ring and I saw pictures. So the Proud Boys had proudly taken video of destroying our Black Lives Matter sign and signs in the yards of other churches. So people were reaching out to me, asking me if I was okay, if the church was okay, if our people were okay. And so immediately I was just deluged with all of this stuff. I had to gather myself, do what we needed to do for worship. Then after that, I immediately called our people because by then everyone knew what had happened. It had spread across national news and our people agreed 100%, all of the church leaders, that we would pursue a legal recourse against the Proud Boys. Some of the other churches that evening chose not to do that, but we felt like it was our work to stand tall and to be bold and to push back. And so that's what we decided to do as a unit. And let me say this for those of you who are church folk, we had a unanimous vote. You know, unanimous votes are rare. Everybody was ready to fight. And for that, I remain thankful.
So you went to court and beat them in court. You got a big judgment. And when they didn't show up, you got a summary judgment of their copyright, right? Because for all the merch that they sell, which was financing them, right?
Yes, sir.
And you got a financial settlement too, right?
Well, see, we're waiting. We probably gotten about $5,000 from them. They owe us close to $3.5 million.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yes. So that was the award we won. So our strategy was when they refused to show up in court, refused to pay, what our lawyers then did, our strategy was to go after what they had, which was a value. But they had a value was their trademark. And as you had mentioned, Dr. Hendricks, they used that to finance their activity. So now we own it. Now they still in many places are using it, but now they use it illegally and we keep suing and suing and suing. The most recent thing to add to this long saga is that we have attached ourselves also to their cryptocurrency. So we are going wherever they seek sunlight, we are there. Wherever they try to find oxygen, we are there. So we are there, and in a way that makes it challenging for us, right? Because we put pressure on them, and they find ways to put pressure on us. But we are committed to the fight. We are committed to it.
Well, then, brother, when you went up against them, knowing that they had Trump on their side, you knew there would be risks.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
And you said, I believe it was on, was it in Christian Century? You said, I think it's clear that this is a decision that the church took, and we're clear that it was not without risk. We're clear that they are violent. We're clear that they exist to stoke violence. And we understand that Fannie Lou Hamer was taking risks in Sunflower County, Mississippi. We understand that Ida B. Wells was taking risks when she was writing about the truth of lynching. We understand that our ancestors came from a long line of those who took risks for themselves and for human flourishing, and we cannot shrink in this moment. I keep remembering the poetry of Lucille Clifton, who says, "Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me, and it has failed. This has failed, and it will fail." I mean, wow, brother. I mean, I wanted to shout when I read those words, the eloquence. But let me ask you.
I need to talk to that guy. I need to talk to the guy.
He sounds really smart.
But earlier, you talked about ancestors, and you were talking here in this quote. It was either Christian Century or NPR, I don't recall, but and you talked. So just talk a minute, if you would, about being empowered and guided by the ancestors and what it means to you and to your congregation by extension.
I've got a book coming out about ancestors, about my thinking about who they are and how they guide us morally and politically, and how unless you center the right ancestors, you will not get where you ought to go morally and politically and otherwise. So I'm going to delve into your territory for a moment, Dr. Hendricks. I'm going to Mark, to the story of the Transfiguration, where Jesus goes up a high mountain with Peter, James, and John, and there he encounters Elijah and he encounters Moses. And I keep thinking about that because in my estimation, that didn't happen one time. I would argue that throughout Jesus's ministry, he would have had to have that type of a deep and rich ancestral commitment and contact in order to remain faithful to his mission. And so for me, ancestors provide an ongoing energy, ongoing light, an ongoing trail that has been blazed so that we know that we, first of all, are not creating ex nihilo. We're not creating out of nothing. Then second, we realize we're not doing something new, Reverend LaKesha. We are extending a work in our day that began before we appeared. And so for me, I am heartened by the fact that Bill Lamar and Reverend LaKesha and Dr. Obery don't have to make this up, that we don't have to be the innovators. We have to be those who in our time say yes to the glorious struggle that is given to us on behalf of all human beings who seek to be free. So for me, I grew up hearing the elders, and maybe you all did too, on their knees saying, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of, that is helping us to understand that the connection between the divine and the ancestors is rich and palpable. They did not call the name of God without calling the name of ancestors.
Yes.
That remains a rich part of who I am, which is why in that quote, I'm calling the name of Mother Hamer, calling the name of Ida B. Wells, calling the names of those who came before us, so that we locate ourselves and we know where we are going. We can plot ourselves along the map of liberation, the map of freedom.
That's so important.
That.
In the Bible, that's why this occurs to me. Listen to, that's why they cited Abraham, Isaac, and Abraham. The Abraham, Isaac, and David. Abraham, and they're always calling the names of the ancestors. Jesus was calling Moses, calling the name of Elijah. So yeah, that brings that together for me. That's biblical tradition, but it's also African cultural tradition at the same time, which is so interesting that you have a lot of backward Christians talking about ancestor worship and that's idolatry and all of that. But I thank you for your explanation of it.
Well, and one of the things, Reverend LaKesha, I want to hear what you were going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, I love the way that you frame this in a historical context, because historically, the Black church has always been a target for this type of violence, whether it's through bombings or burnings or just political suppression. Why do you think that the Black church continues to provoke such hostility from white supremacist movements? Like, why are they always coming for us?
I think they are coming for us because they may understand better than many of us the revolutionary possibilities, the revolutionary ethic of our tradition, the revolutionary rhetoric of our tradition, and the vision that we have. So my argument, which comes from so many scholars with whom I spent time and those I've read, that the vision of the quote unquote founders of the American Imperial Project was not democratic. It was extractive. It was exploitative. It was far from democratic. And the great scholar, give me 1 second, I'm drawing a blank, he'll come to me in a moment. He talks about Noam Chomsky. He talks about the disease of American democracy, that American democracy is built upon Aristotelian democracy. And the disease of Aristotelian democratic philosophy is that it always excluded the enslaved and women. How can you have, I was going to say something else. How in the blank can you have democracy when the root word demos means all the people, which is exclusive? So that project is diseased from the very beginning. Yes. Those who were the surgeons who sought to cut the cancer of that disease from so-called American democracy were our forebears. They said democracy is for everybody. They sought to cut the disease cancer from American democracy. And right now, yards from where I am talking to you, the Supreme Court is trying to reintroduce that cancer into the body politic by destroying the Voting Rights Act. They're doing it through gerrymandering. They're doing it through Trump demanding that districts be redrawn. And so the argument I make is we come from the tradition that has always said democracy is for all of us. One of the brilliant human things about our people, I do not understand it, but they fed it to us and they gave it to us to drink. It is that all human beings ought be treated humanly. All human beings are made in the imago Dei. So Frederick Douglass was preaching against the Chinese Exclusion Act. One of the last things that he was doing. It was one of the last battlefronts that he was active on. We have always said no to exclusion. And when people come and visit Metropolitan, as they often do, I say to them, if you are not a white man and you are flourishing in America, you have us to thank. Because we fought for all of you. We fought for all of you. We fought for the inclusion of us all. So fighting the Black church, visiting violence upon us, is visiting violence upon the idea that we all ought live together in a truly democratic space. And that has never been the intention of those who have power. I tell people, I don't celebrate America. I would argue that I reflect upon America, because ain't much to celebrate. I am the first generation of my family not born in American apartheid. The first.
Wow.
And I was born in it.
That's right. So Virginia. What are we talking about here? We're talking about a nation that has never been committed, and we keep fighting. The question is, what do we do? Do we do like Du Bois at the end of his life? He says, chin up, fight on, I'm out. What are we going to do? Because they are turning up the pressure. So the question is, how shall we respond in the moment?
Yeah. And I think like one of the questions that came to my mind as you were speaking is how when we invoke the ancestors and how they fought so hard for the right to vote, and we know that not every woman was a part of that fight, but the majority, as we read the narrative of our history, the majority were fighting for us to have the right to vote. How have the tides turned so quickly that now we have the majority, it feels, of our citizens so apathetic toward voting? Like, why do you feel that there has been such a loss in an appetite for Black Americans to be a part of the equality that we've been fighting for?
I really want you all to push back on me. I got a theory here, and
I love conspiracy theories. Bring
yeah,
it on.
look, my working theory is that my generation essentially was raised to believe that we had won, that the battle was fought, and that the victory was won. We were taught, I think, that it was time to rest. The fight had been fought. And I just think that we did not see, many of us, some of us did. Derek Bell tried to tell us, right? So many others, Kimberly Crenshaw tried to tell us. So many people have been trying to tell us, but the majority of us have been basking in the fact that the corporate space has been open and academic spaces have been open and financial spaces have been open, that we took our eyes off of the ball, that these people have been serious about rolling back what we have won. And I think also, I was talking on Saturday with the wonderful sisters at Women Preach, their 15th anniversary. I want to shout out Dr. Valerie Bridgman. I think about my grandmother's candy dish. Now, I asked them, so how many of y'all had grandmothers that had candy dishes or they kept candy in their purse? I think about the pure delight my grandmothers had in making sure there was something sweet for us.
Oh, yeah.
A space of joy and oasis in the midst of the challenges of American empire. I also think that Black folk just wanted to rest. We just wanted our children to rest. We just wanted to be able to be. But it unfortunately, that still is not the case for the majority of us. And I also feel like because many of us are away from the hottest places of economic and socio-political challenge, we still think that we will not be singed by the fire. But I am clear that the fires are going to rage and that it is going to get much worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is very fascinating because you said, I read this in Christian Century, that a very brilliant brother that is a pastor in Washington, D.C., I think his church is Metropolitan AME Church. He said, there is an unrelenting inhumanity in the American project that we as a people have to redeem. The question I often ask now is redemption possible? I do not think it is possible if it is built on extraction. And I'm going to come to that later about capitalism. Then you go on to say, can we come together just like the white men who designed this system of inhumanity and together design a system that is humane, that shares abundance, that believes all human beings can thrive together as citizens? So you talk about, you raise the question, is redemption possible? What would redemption look like for you? And is it, do you think it's possible in America?
So let me tell y'all where I am. Why do we keep thinking that we can get to a place where some of the best of our ancestors hit a wall and told us differently? So I want to start with Henry McNeil Turner.
Oh my God.
So Turner musters Black men to fight in the Civil War from one of Metropolitan's predecessor churches, believing that if we fight in the war, finally, they will see us as men, which is the language that he used, and that we will be free. We can live as citizens side by side. Then he comes back and is elected as a Republican to sit in the Georgia legislature. They refused to seat him. And at the end of his life, he was clear about the American project. Richard Allen, the end of his life, the AME Church tries to scrub this from the story because we don't want no smoke from the white folks. But the truth is, Richard Allen, at the end of his life, was trying to send African people to Haiti, to Upper Canada, to Africa, because he did not believe America would be true to its promise. At the end of his life, Martin King says, I fear that I've integrated my people into a burning house. At the end of her life, Ida B. Wells is most skeptical about the American project. Here is where I am today. Why would I think that I am smarter than those ancestors? What I have to say now, and I want to bring Jeremiah right into the conversation. I asked him this question, and I do not think that the American project is redeemable. Mm-hmm. I think that if we are serious, we've got to start over. What we have is so diseased, and I'm clearly saying it now at 51. I've been kind of hemming and hawing, as we say in Georgia, hedging my bet, geeing and hawing, but I'm clear. This project continues to do what it has always done. My parents' voting rights were more protected in 1981 under Ronald Reagan than their grandchildren's voting rights are protected in 2025 under Donald Trump. Are we going to believe something different than what Derek Bell wrote? I can no longer sacrifice us to American propaganda around democracy. I think our energy should lie in building a true democracy, something that those founders did not intend, something the current Supreme Court does not intend, something that Mike Johnson does not intend, something that John Thune does not intend, something that Donald Trump does not intend. We have to build something new in this place, or we got to think of something different. I want you all to tell me, no, I'm wrong. In the words of Biggie, one more chance. Y'all help me. I just don't know.
But I want to know. I just want a little clarification, because I know that LaKesha wants to come in. And when you said build something new, my question is what and where?
That's a good question. Okay. So there are people. Let me be clear. I am arguing that we build a new political economy here. But the challenge, I think a realist like you would say is that possible? I do not believe that those who control corporate, political, governmental, and military power would let that happen. I don't know. I think that if we live here, I am speaking that way, but I have resigned myself to staying here and to trying to do the work of reform. But we thought 60 years ago the reform would be permanent. And here we are, they have dismantled it. So, Dr. Hendricks, unfortunately, I don't know that I have a good answer. I would like to think that there are enough people here who seek to build something like that in the here and now. But I just don't know. I do not know. I'm not at all optimistic.
LaKesha, can I follow? Can I just give a follow up, LaKesha? I don't mean to dominate, but he's raising all this stuff. But all modes of political economy change, right?
They do.
And capitalism will also. And on the side, the biblical ethos is a socialist ethos, right? Not socialism, but socialist, right? Because it's about society, it's about the common good, right? And so, this upcoming generation, they overwhelmingly are open. Well, at least that's what the opinion polls say. They're open to socialism. We're seeing Mondami, and he's getting a lot of play, surprising amount of play, and all that. Is it now? So, if we're going to be moving towards something like that. Is it possible? I know the powers that be going to fight back against it, but they fought against the New Deal as well, right? And that. So does that give us some avenue of hope? I mean, maybe not in our lifetimes, but does it give us some avenue of hope?
I think you're right. It does if we do two things. One, build the power to allow politicians like Mamdani to change the way that the political economy works. Right now, the political economy is designed to extract from the poor and to enrich the wealthy. What essentially his politics, all politics, bottom line, all politics are the politics of redistribution.
Right.
The question is the distribution from the poor to the wealthy or from the wealthy to the poor? Now, I agree, of course, with your scholarship around the ethos of the scriptures, but Americans' ethos, especially post the age of Reagan, and Reagan's work was a counter-revolutionary work to blast back the quote-unquote gains of the New Deal. And we know the New Deal left us out. We had to fight to get in that thing. And right now, and what we see in the Trump moment, it is another counter-revolutionary. We got to name it. It is a counter-revolutionary political force beat back civil rights and the little bit of democracy that we have. So you're right. There are people who are standing up, but we have to be clear. You got to build power to get it in place, and you must build and keep power to keep it. That's the thing that we thought. We believe in what is good, and we think, okay, now that it's good, we're good. No, when you put good in place, those who do not believe in good are building power to undo it. So this is a counter-revolutionary force which demands a revolutionary force to rise up, to weaken it, and to put it to bed.
Well, I actually agree with your theory. And I think that, and I know this is a very unpopular opinion, but I think that Donald Trump tearing down the government is kind of a good thing for us, because I think for decades, we've talked about how the system wasn't built for us and we need to just tear it down and build something new. And I'm like, hey, like, he's tearing it down. But are we in a position to be a part of the building of something new? And I think that with the midterm elections coming up, and most of us have elections next month, we're going to see, are we serious about being a part of the building something new? Or are we just going to continue to sit back and complain? But if we're able to elect more members to the House of Representatives so that Mike Johnson is no longer Speaker of the House, if we're able to elect more senators so that we can control the Senate vote, then we have a better chance during the presidential election of regaining that power. But we have to look at it as a long game where we are going to position ourselves and develop a vision. I think that that's one of the areas where we lack as a Black community is what is our vision? So if we do, build something different, like, what does that look like? And we can't just say that we want something different, because we're going to end up building what was already there, but in our own image. And who does that really work for?
Exactly. Let me tell you, you are right up my street, and I need your help. First of all, I need your help because we win when Black women organize. Clearly, Joe Biden would have been licking an ice cream cone somewhere in Delaware. Black women in South Carolina had not organized.
That's
and it's clear that Black women are able, their voter multiplying effect is large. All of us have to get on the scene and use the power we have. We have a power in voting that can begin the revolution, but it won't sustain it if we won't participate beyond the voting booth. That's A. And then your other piece around what will we build, it begs a communication question. So I've been paying attention to Mom Dami, and I'm thankful that Dr. Hendricks raised him up. He says when he walks around New York City, people yell out of buses and cabs 3 things. What are those 3 things? Fast free buses, free childcare, and affordable housing. Those are the 3 affirmative things that he has offered New Yorkers, and they know it's going to be difficult, but they want a visionary fighting for those things. It's not impossible. My question then, and I'm bad at this, what are the things that we're saying we're going to build? I was at a table the other day in DC. I'm always at these tables where people say, what do we do? What do we do? And we were talking about the fact that Martin King's speech was not, I have despair about how awful America is. His speech was, I have a dream, right? So I am better at the I have despair speech than I am at the I have a dream speech. So what do we say that we have affirmatively? I mean, universal health care, housing as a right, everybody should have dignified retirement. Like, how do we produce a message that resonates in head and heart, that is portable, that people can carry, like people are carrying Mom Donnie's message right now?
Yeah. And I think that message comes down to the economy, because I think that when you look at our society, we're so divided on social issues, whether it's abortion or same gender relationships. But when it comes down to the economy, we can all agree that we want an economy that works for everyone. And so I think that we have to center.
No, we don't all agree.
Well, I think the majority of us want an economy that allows us to buy food and have a place to live. Like, people may not agree how we get to that, but we do want an economy that allows us to pay our bills and to be able to feed our families.
There are a lot of people who don't want that for us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about us. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about when we develop the message for the Black community, the thing that we can agree on. We might not agree on those social issues, but we can agree that we want opportunity for ourselves and for our children. And I think that we have to find like that common language instead of focusing on the issues that divide us. And a lot of times those talking points come from people who want to divide us. Exactly. And so they feed us talking points that they know will create division within our communities, and we eat them up instead of saying like, no, like I get what you're saying, but if we're gonna win, this is what we need to talk about.
Yeah, she brings such a good point, but then you're pastor of one of the leading AME churches. LaKesha is Reverend Womack. I'm ordained. We're church folk. I was president of seminary and all. Last week I bring you back to the church. The thing about the evil side and their evil, they evolved and codified a vision, Project 2025, right? It's evil vision, but it's a vision. We in the church preach without vision of people who perish, but we don't have a vision, man. You don't hear, they talk about the kingdom of God. And I've asked folks, well, what does that look like in terms of the political economy, in terms of the economic system, in terms of this, in terms of that? No vision. I've talked to some of the leaders of our denomination. I've asked the same question in other denominations. So how might we get the church on board on board with this? I think I have that question. I pose that to both of y'all.
Reverend LaKesha, would you like to take a stab? And I will follow you, my sister. I got some thoughts.
Well, I think the hard part, especially when you name the people that you talk to, is like the vision has to be devoid of power struggle. And I think that in too many cases, when you look at the church, and one of the reasons why the church has not been a leader in the current movement is because we're too busy fighting over power. Who's going to be at the microphone? Who's going to be on TV? Who's going to be the leader? And that's why the Black Lives Matter movement and the younger people are not looking to the church for leadership, because we're too busy fighting over who's going to be on stage. So I think that when we start talking about that vision, it's not going to come from denominational leaders. It's not going to come from a lot of your popular pastors, because they're too busy trying to be on a flyer, whereas there's real work to be done in the streets. And that's who the people who are going to follow that vision are looking for, who's in the streets actually doing the work. So you might want to survey a different group of people if you want to find that vision.
Well, let me, before I get to I have a dream, let me give my I have despair speech. I would argue, and Dr. Hendricks, Reverend LaKesha, I want you all to push back with all of the vigor that you have intellectually and spiritually, with all sinew. But I would argue that the majority of Black preachers, our theological imaginations are captured by white evangelical theology.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That the majority of us are white evangelicals in blackface.
Mm-hmm.
We must name the theological bondage that we are in. All right, that's A. Now, when I move from that, I still say there are enough of us who have struggled our way out of that theological incarceration to stand in the light of the revolutionary gospel that Dr. Hendricks has written about and helped us to uncover, that we can come together and somehow produce. So there's a convention, there's a meeting of Black religion folk coming, clergy and scholars supposed to come to DC in 2026. We know we need to come together. And everybody I've talked to, great scholars like Jennifer Leith, then we talk. She and I talked about the fact. Look, they have Project 25. What is our document? What is it that we are going to say? We know we need to say something. I think that it is rooted in the best of the gospel. It is rooted in the best of our human tradition. But you all are right. Where that exists, where it's written down, I don't know.
You all making some very important points, and Rev. LaKesha, who I think probably should run for office, man.
You got my vote.
Yeah, I think that. I think she's. I mean, I know she's right. I mean, we know that, and I mean, you're AME Zion, I'm AME. We know in these denominations that that the way the power is held and all of that is just, we have all these little fiefdoms. It's and there's no really, they control all the communication, all that, so you can't really mobilize people. But I think that Brother Lamar, you're right. There is a critical mass of us who can come together, bring our various gifts and skills and perspectives, and work this thing out, man. I've been trying to work on a plan. Ask the question, take Martin Luther King's notion of the beloved community a step further. Well, he never fleshed it out. He didn't get a chance. What would that look like if we recognize that love your neighbor as yourself on every level, economic, social, political, is the greatest social commandment? What would it look like to build a society based on that? I mean, that's just one suggestion. There's so many ways we can bring that together. But something you said that I want to make sure we get to before you said, I don't see how following Jesus can square with American extractive capitalism. He said this in the Christian century. He said, now, like all of us, I'm deeply ensconced within the capitalist milieu, of course, but I want to exist there the way Madam C.J. Walker did. She leveraged capitalism, but her mind was not captured or colonized by it. She used her resources to build wealth within the Black community. So, how can we do it, brother? I mean,
Listen, look, I've read you. I think you do you agree with me on that, Dr. Hendricks? I mean, my read of you is that you see it's a big problem to square American capitalism with Jesus and with the gospel. Am I right?
Well, yeah, there's no way you can do that. But you're right. We have to exist in the meantime. How do we
do it? Well, and I think that you do it like Madam C.J. Walker did. I didn't realize until I was with a scholar. That's why I thank God for the scholars. That Madam C.J. Walker ceded so much to save the NAACP, to fund movements, to fund revolution. It's what A.G. Gaston did in Alabama. Mm-hmm. He helped to fund the movement in Alabama. Black capitalism won't save us. I want to be clear, but Black capitalists can help to fund movements that make community and flourishing possible. My challenge is when I'm around most of them, it does not seem to me like they are privileging communal power.
Yes.
They seem to be dancing to the same tune of white capitalists. And I think that tune is the tune of death, brother. I just don't, there's no other way to call it.
I think you're right. Reverend LaKesha, we're going to have to bring Brother Lamar back. No, seriously. No, man, we're just
definitely, because we got to get deeper into that capitalism question, because we have to address Christian capitalism.
Oh boy.
How has that infiltrated?
It's an oxymoron.
It actually is, but but it goes back to the colonized theology that people believe in, that is rooted in this concept of capitalism, where my goal is to have a bigger church and a better parking lot and a better fellowship hall, but I don't want those dirty homeless people to come in, and I don't want those bad children to come in. So it's like we want all of this stuff, but then when it comes to using the stuff for the good for the people, like, oh wait, like we can't do that. And my question is always like, so when you get to heaven, which is where we all aspire to go, and you're talking to God, and God is like, yeah, you built that new church, but what about the sheep that I told you to feed? Like, and you're like, oh no, like they had to stay outside because your sheep were too dirty to come
Matthew
into
25, right.
So we can have a whole show talking about this.
Right. But Reverend LaKesha, see, that's man, Lord, because that is so true. We're focused on institutional maintenance, right? Jesus didn't start an institution, he started a movement. The question is, how can we get back? I mean, bureaucracy is inevitable. I mean, Max Faber showed us that it's inevitable. But so we're going to have this bureaucracy. But how can we reclaim some measure of movement? And I don't know if we have time to talk about that. But I'm saying that's something that we have to do. But I must say that what you all did, what you all modeled there at Metropolitan, with these, with these boys, you didn't. I mean, Jesus said to turn the other cheek if you don't have any other, if you don't have any other option. Well, y'all understood that you had an option, and what you modeled is very important. Resistance and courage, and letting folk we're not know that we're not playing. So I just want to celebrate that, man.
Yes, definitely.
I want to thank you all, and I want to thank our community at Metropolitan, because it has been a communal effort. It has cost us dearly to stand up financially. It costs us dearly security and watchfulness. There is a cost to standing up, but it is a cost that Mrs. Hamer paid and that Mrs. Wells paid.
Yeah.
And it is our turn to pay, and we're going to.
Yes. So as we close, what advice would you want to give to a pastor who may be calculating that cost right now, or a church leader who's calculating, how far can we afford to go?
You asked a beautiful question, and I'm going to give you the most practical of answers. Mm-hmm. We cannot lead a congregation to take risks if we do not love the people. Mm. If you cannot make prophetic withdrawals, if you have not made pastoral care deposits. So people that want to be prophets who have not visited sick rooms, showed up for surgery at 6 a.m., buried folk, baptized folk, the community of love that we had at Metropolitan for years before I came there, and that we continued under my watch, made the prophetic possible. You can't go into a place, not know, not love, not respect people, and expect them to take risks together.
Yes.
The love in community makes the prophetic possible. Mrs. Hamer loved the people in Sunflower County. That's what it looks like.
That's right. And that's so important. There are two sides of ministry. You have to have the pastoral, because pastoral's prophetic too. You have to have them both. You have to love your Lord your God, all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Without both of them, you can't have a cross. So I think that's so very, very, very important. May I ask if we could nominate Reverend LaKesha Womack to run for Congress or something?
Yes, I second the motion. I have no power, but I second the motion.
Well, I'll just say you guys hang around and we'll see what happens in December. But thank you so much again for being our guest, Reverend Lamar. And where can our audience find you online if they want to know more about the work that you're doing?
At metropolitaname.org, and we're on all the socials. So we look forward to you.
Great.
And Dr. Obery? Say your first name and your last name at the same time. Dr. Obery, where can they find you online?
At best place is my Substack, actually, in which I've written about Mom Donnie several times, and Obery M. Hendricks Jr.substack.com. And I try to uphold the banner there.
You do that. You do that.
Let me say before we go, though, brother, your brilliance is a gift, man, to the Black community. And it's so clear you have, dedicated your whole being to the community and to the struggle. And we're so appreciative of that. And we want to have you back, brother.
Anytime. Thank you both for what you are doing here. I am your humble servant. Say the word. I'm back.
Awesome.
Thank you, brother.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And thank you to our audience for tuning in. You can find me on all social media at LaKesha Womack. And we are so excited for our next guest, which we're not going to tell you about tonight because we got to finalize some details, but it's going to be a good one. So thank you all again for tuning in to the Politics of Jesus podcast. And we look forward to seeing you back here next week. Same time, same place.
Okay.